Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Please Read. Today's edition of Please Read is about Please Read the User's Guide. And what user's guide are we talking about? The one that's in the news, the company that's all over the place. Dominion Voting. We've got Democracy Suite, ImageCast Central User's Guide. This is the May 31st, 2019 version. And what we want to do today is we want to delve into this guide and find out what's in it that can help us understand what's going on. Now, if we talk to the Dominion folks, they're going to say, this is a beautiful operation. Everything worked just as we planned, and it was perfect. If you talk to the opposition, you say, hey, you're cheating. This is a fraud. These things are fixed, and the whole program stinks out loud. Well, maybe we can get some hints as to who's on the more correct side of the issue. So let's delve into it, and let's go right into the user's guide. We'll skip the table of contents. Let's go to chapter introduction, number 1. Purpose and scope. What's the purpose of the system? To count votes. Relevant disclaimers. There's some things in here that might be out of date. We understand. Design responsibility. That's all within Dominion voting. But patent status. Now, this one I find pretty interesting, okay? This one, patent status 1.4. Certain system concepts, as well as many implementation and construction details, are protected by a series of U.S. and foreign patents pending. Now, this company's been around for a while. How long do you have a patent pending, and why would you have a patent pending? Well, if we had a patent number, we know, we could just look up the patent and we could find out how the system works. If we have a patent pending, we don't have access to the secrets and the inner workings of the system. So it's kind of, it's a little questionable. Why do we have just patents pending for a company that's this old? Let's delve into the next chapter here. And we're going to skip the setup and the starter card and all those things. And that's what you do in the voting machines. I've been an administrator in a voting site 30, 36, 37 years. I skipped this year with COVID. You know, if you're in something that long, you get old. And if you have a COVID issue, you're old, you're at risk. So I did skip the election this year. But I have a lot of experience. And we have scanning options. Now, what's interesting about the scanning options is you can choose what goes through and is accepted on a ballot and what is not accepted on a ballot. So here we go. We take a look at types of voting errors. Errors include ambiguous marks, Sharpies, blank ballots, overvotes, undervotes, and you configure it to stop on write-in votes. And you set this up, and I found out that if you go to the setup page, we get really interesting on this whole thing. We have a setup page which is too small for me to show you, but I can tell you what's on it. And the most interesting thing about the setup page is that it's kind of backwards. It's kind of backwards on what you opt in and opt out of. Let me give you an example. We have stop scan on ambiguous voting mark. That's a Sharpie mark. That's the Maricopa County mark, where you put a mark on the paper, and if you're using a Sharpie, the ink bleeds through to the other side. When it bleeds through to the other side, it makes an ambiguous mark. Do you want to stop the machine on that, or do you want to accept it on that? They have other things, ballot not inked with poll ID, blank ballots, missing DRO signatures, write-in votes. All these things you opt in to have them stop. Otherwise, it takes an ambiguous ballot. It'll take a Sharpie mark. All right. Now, here's a really interesting one. With a server continuity. It's on continuous scan. Now, think about when you go vote. There's a line. All right. You get your ballot, you go into the booth, and you make your mark, or you go in the screen, and you make your mark there, and it prints it. Now you have your ballot with the mark on it. Now you go over, and there's two people in front of you. They go, ka-ching, get the sticker, ka-ching, I voted sticker, and you're there, ka-ching, you get your I voted sticker, and you leave. Continuous scan. When are you going to continuous scan at a polling place? It doesn't make sense, but that's the automated system. You start with continuous scan. If you want single scan, you have to opt into single scan. All right. And the next one I find most interesting, only one scan per batch. What does that mean? Only one scan per batch. Well, let's turn a couple of pages here and we're going to find out. All right, so let's go to Chapter 3, because Chapter 3 has administer and supervisor modes, also a polling place mode. And what a mode is here's your machine out here, and there are certain things you can do with it. If you're a poll worker or an administrator like I was, in the morning you come in, you turn it on. I run my own ballot. I'm the first one to vote. I run my ballot through, we check it, and then I leave it alone for the day. And at the end of the day, I run through a card that says close the tabulator, and that shuts the tabulator off forever. And all the votes that are in there, we can run a tape and we can see who voted for this and who's voted for that. That's a traditional machine. That's generally how it works. But let's talk about Dominion voting and the position of supervisor. And is that different from any other supervisor position in any other voting system? So we go right to supervisor. Supervisor mode is a high-level mode reserved for technicians authorized by Dominion voting. So this is inside stuff. Supervised mode functions include pre-configuration parameters. Who's on the ballot? Okay. Debug level tools for troubleshooting. Your machine's jammed. How do you do that? How do you keep the count going? No problem. And technician-specific functions used internally to monitor the tabulator status and health during service cycles. You're going to monitor the internal workings of the tabulator during a service cycle. Do you know what a service cycle is? Service cycle is 6 a.m. on election day to 8 p.m. on election day. In other words, this tells you you can opt in and study what's going on inside the machine during the day. You might want to see how's the count going for my candidate at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it would be possible to say, oh man, our guy's behind, he's behind, what are we going to do? Oh, well, if you know he's behind, what can you do? There's something you can do, and the machine handles that. It handles what you can do when your candidate, man or woman, is behind. It's pretty cool. Okay? Closing the tabulator. Now, when I close a tabulator in the last 35 years, what I would do is I slide the card in and the tabulator closes. It shuts down. You're not going back. Right? You're not going back. This is how this one works for Dominion voting. Number one, you hit configuration and the configuration pane comes up on the screen. This message says, are you sure you want to close the tabulator? You click OK. And then it says, it confirms again, are you sure? Yes, OK. And you click OK, and now the machine is closed. You know what's interesting about this? It doesn't tell you whether or not the machine can be turned back on. Well, let's turn the page. Let's see what it says. So after we've closed the tabulator, there's no comment about reopening it, except you can reopen it. What do you mean? You can reopen a tabulator. You can reopen the tabulator. Let's go to that section 3221. It says here, reopening the tabulator. In the event that the tabulator has been closed before all the ballots have been scanned, hold on. It's 8 o'clock at night. You haven't scanned all the ballots? The person didn't put the ballot in the machine? How could you not scan all the ballots? But in the event the tabulator has been closed before all ballots have been scanned, the user can reopen the tabulator to continue scanning. This will add to the totals for the tabulator and be reflected on the results report. To reopen the tabulator, 1. Click Configuration on the application screen. The pane appears. Click Reopen Tabulator. Hit OK. Hit OK again with a passcode. And lo and behold, you are in the machine and you may recommence scanning. You know when you can do this if you want. You could do this at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. You can turn the tabulator on and you can commence scanning again. Very interesting. Very interesting. I've never seen that feature. Kind of handy, actually, if we're short a few votes. But who knows if that's the purpose. Could be. All right, now we've got the tabulator open and the instructions continue with what to do. And this is cool. In some cases, the user may want to discard a batch. Now we have to have a definition here. A batch can be one ballot, can be two ballots, can be the entire precinct. Let me insert the word precinct because then you will get exactly the power of the service and ability of the Dominion voting machines to handle all sorts of situations, all sorts. In some cases, the user may want to discard a precinct. Okay? An example of such a situation is when a precinct is accidentally scanned twice. Why would you scan a precinct twice? Or when the quality of the batch is brought into question. How could we bring the quality of a batch into question? Go back to 4 o'clock. Those ratios weren't quite right. That precinct is in question. I'd like to take a look at that precinct. Well, here it is. We can discard the entire precinct. All right? Then it says, if you've discarded the precinct and you want to press scan again, go right ahead, and you can scan ballots through again. Are they the same ballots? Or did you say, hey, Eddie, go out to the car, all right? Get some ballots out of the trunk and stop talking to Mrs. Cleaver, stop helping her vote, go out to the car, all right? Now, one thing about Eddie Haskell, is he always helps Mrs. Cleaver vote every year. He's been helping her vote for the last 20 years. Ever since she died, he's been helping Mrs. Cleaver vote. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. So, all right, so Eddie comes back in with the ballots. We scan this new batch of ballots. Now let's check the machine. Let's use that feature of looking inside the machine. Oh, I like what the inside of the machine looks like now. Now it looks better than it did before. Eddie, thank you very much. That was very helpful. So now we've had a lot of assistance with the machine. Eddie's helped Mrs. Cleaver vote again. And we've loaded Mrs. Cleaver's vote, and everybody else's vote is back in the machine again. And we're getting to the end. We've sent the ballot count over to headquarters. They've got the numbers. They're putting them up on television. Everything's working well. We've got the balance of votes that we would like. And we want to now clean up the tabulator because Election Day's over. And we have instructions for that. And this is called re-zeroing the tabulator. We're getting it set up literally for the next election. And it's so simple to do. It's so simple to do, it's just frightening. And here's how you re-zero a tabulator and the features of what happens when you re-zero it. What is special about re-zeroing the tabulator? Here it is. 3132, re-zeroing the tabulator. Re-zeroing the tabulator clears the scanned ballots results and the tabulator's history. Oh. The history of us checking it at 2 in the afternoon, the history of us checking it at 4 in the afternoon, the history of us opening it up at midnight or 2 a.m., the history of us blowing off the precinct, the history of us loading a new precinct. Yeah. It says right here, the tabulator's history, it's cleared. This process cannot be undone. Oh. So when you re-zero the tabulator, the history's gone forever. You're not getting it back. It's gone forever. Watch how difficult this is to do. Click the configuration screen again. The configuration pane appears. In the configuration pane, click re-zero. If there are no uncast ballots, the action will remove all processed precincts. If there are no uncast ballots, how would a machine know you have an uncast ballot? Oh. When Eddie went out to the car, he brought back only 1,800 ballots. We had 1,850 we erased. So when the 1,800 ballots go through, you can't re-zero the machine because you don't have enough ballots. You're not going to match the voting checkoff list. So you add the 50. All right, now we have enough cast ballots. And the action of this button will remove all processed precincts. You hit OK. And that's it. The count's gone. Access to the machine's history's gone. It's all gone. It's all gone. So I hope this helps you understand how the Dominion voting system works. It It's a clean system. It does all sorts of things other systems can't do. You can open a tabulator at any time. That might be helpful. You can eliminate a precinct at any time. That might be helpful. You can switch and reload a different block of votes for the precinct. That might be helpful. And then when you're all done and you've sent everything up to headquarters, you can just take it and you can re-zero everything. And all the evidence of what you did on this machine is gone. Tell me how you present that to the court. When they say, show us the evidence, and you say, oh, it's gone. It's all gone. It says here, and we can't get it back. Oh, well, you don't have the evidence. Oh, come on. There's all kinds of evidence. It's just a different kind of evidence. Look, you got a big tree in your backyard, right? Thunderclouds come at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you hear this boom, boom, and you're ducking under your My Pillow, and the noise is rapping all over the place. And in the morning, you come out and you look in the backyard, and that big oak tree is in smithereens. Bark has exploded all over the yard. The branches are down. There's burn marks in the grass. What happened to that tree? Got hit by lightning. Oh, yeah? Can you prove it? Can you prove it? Can you take those electrons? Can you show me the electrons that blew that tree apart? Oh, you can't prove that? Well, I got evidence. I got the bark on the ground. I got branches all over the place. And the thing still stinks. It stinks out loud. What is this? That's it. That's the evidence. No, it's not. And is that what the court's doing? Is the court saying, hey, show me the electrons? Because there's a lot here. There's a lot here. That's evidence. I hope this session helped you understand what you can do with certain programs, certain computer systems in the way of voting. And if you look at it, maybe both sides are right. Maybe both sides are right. We started with, it's perfect. It functioned just as we planned. And the other side says, but everything is not counted right. It doesn't add up right. The whole system stinks. Yeah, you know what? Maybe they're both right. Maybe they're both right. I hope you enjoyed today's session of Please Read. And we'll be doing some more. I've got some others to come up. But until we meet again, thank you very much, all of you, for coming, and have a good afternoon.